With a well-informed emotional profile, now the juror can feel the shrinking of life. It's relatable, it's familiar, it draws on history and lived experience, and that creates connection. Welcome to the Foster Your Voice podcast with me, Kristi Foster. After a 30-year career in music and theater, I never imagined I'd be coaching trial attorneys. But once I entered your world, I quickly realized how critical and underutilized voice is in the courtroom. The truth is, you don't win trials with brute strength. You win with your voice. I'll give you tools to unlock your voice so you can communicate not just with purpose, but on purpose. If you want quick action tips to help you stay calm and in control, keep jurors engaged, and inspire your listeners to action, all through the power of your voice, you're in the right place. I'm Kristi Foster, and I'm here to help you foster your voice. Hello, Foster fam. Welcome back to another episode of the Foster Your Voice podcast. This is a busy time of year. We've got graduations. Father's Day is coming up, I think this coming Sunday, and summer plans are getting made. So thank you for taking just a moment to pull up a chair and join me for today's podcast episode. Today, we're taking a look at the second familiar anchor, which is wealth. Fitting, since today is when quarterly taxes are due for those of you running your own business. Happy tax day for those who celebrate. So much joy. Just a quick review if you're just joining the podcast. I'm doing a 4-part series on the familiar anchors of health, wealth, family, and identity. And these are buckets that you could draw on for your analogies in your storytelling, or where you find your key principles that guide your voir dire questions. These anchors are designed to stick in jurors' minds and connect emotionally because they are highly relatable. They are topics that are common to humankind. Money is one of those buckets that everyone can relate to. When you have a lot of money, there are fears around losing it. When money is scarce, every penny makes a difference. I mean, I'm just thinking back to my early 20s, college, and maybe just post-college, pre-career days. Even if doing something was only going to cost maybe like $2, when you don't have $2, it might as well cost $2 million. You're not finding that $2 no matter how hard you look. So here I'm bringing up all my own PTSD. But the point is that anchoring your case into wealth is not just about greed or income levels. It's deeper than what a checkbook register says. Anchors about money tap into security, stability, freedom, fairness, and even future safety. Again, money doesn't just represent figures on a P&L statement. Having money represents having options, safety, opportunity, protection, independence, years of work, sacrifice, and predictability to some extent. Jurors can readily understand financial threat because nearly every adult has experienced some form of economic vulnerability, financial uncertainty at some point or other, having to tighten up the purse strings. When you can stop talking about numbers abstractly, just as data, and instead start connecting finances to lived experiences and lived consequences, you have a much more powerful connection point for the jury and more buy-in and engagement from them. So, for example, instead of, he lost $280,000 in wages, let's reframe that. The retirement timeline he had worked towards for 27 years disappeared in 6 months. Or every financial decision became smaller. Groceries, vacations, college help, medical care, everything. Now, for those that are just listening to the episode and not watching, I'm also pairing this with nonverbal gestures. I'm creating an emotional profile that represents the fear and uncertainty of lost wages. With a well-informed emotional profile, now the juror can feel the shrinking of life. It's relatable, it's familiar. It draws on history and lived experience, and that creates connection. Here's just a few more examples that would tap into fairness and loss, values, future security, livelihood. Okay, here's a couple of examples. Imagine working for 40 years, saving every month, and then having someone just take that retirement from you. It's like buying a car and never getting the keys. You paid the price, but someone else got to drive off with it. This wasn't a windfall. It was what he earned. And now he'll never see the return on it. She isn't asking for a handout. She's asking for what she's owed. If someone broke your phone today, they'd owe you the cost of a new one. But if they took your ability to earn a living, what is that worth? Those are just a few examples to kind of play around with. And whether you grew up with the phrase, money doesn't grow on trees, and felt the scarcity of it, or whether you have always had certainty that comes with having adequate funds, or even an abundance of funds, everyone has some relationship to money. That's what makes the wealth anchor so powerful. You know what I hate? Being misunderstood. It's actually one of my biggest fears, if I'm honest, right up there with birds. Yes, I'm afraid of birds. Leave me alone about it already. Being misunderstood is just the worst, though. Trying to communicate something and seeing that it's just not landing the way you intend. A too harsh of tone with your kid or spouse that ended up setting them off. A thinking face that got interpreted as annoyance or irritation and ended up shutting down the conversation and leaving you baffled. It's so frustrating in our personal lives. But in the courtroom, your mismatched communication profile could break your case and lose you a deserving verdict. So, I've created a free guide to get you thinking about the emotional profiles you create. It's a printable guide to help you 10x your communication impact by mastering 6 emotional profiles for clear and authentic connection. I break down the 6 core emotions: happy, sad, love, pride, anger, and fear by giving you face, body, and breathing cues. Plus, I show you exactly which point on a 1 to 10 scale you should be with your pitch, pace, melody, volume, and tone in order to authentically capture the center of that core emotion. The link to get your free guide is in the show notes or by simply going to my website, fostervoicestudio.com. Don't wait to clear up your part of miscommunication and misunderstandings. Get your free download today. There's a common theme among the clients I have coached, whether it's my one-on-one clients or doing quick coaching during a training call or when speaking at a conference. There's one common communication struggle that I have seen in everyone, regardless of years of experience, number of wins under your belt, if you're a solo or you work in a firm. And here it is. You're not animated enough. Now let's just let that sit for a second. Take a second to grapple with it, and you tell me, have you ever seen a presenter at a CLE or someone in your trial team be too animated? Never. You never have. Okay, so let me temper this a little bit. I am not wanting you to be too animated. I just want you to be more animated. I just don't think there's a universe that exists where you would ever be too much. Years ago, and maybe you've done this too, you make a new friend and you really like them. Then insecurity pops up and you start thinking, I don't know, maybe I like them more than they like me. So then you start kind of measuring out how much friendship you extend because you don't want them to get annoyed with you for being too much. Has this ever happened to you? I don't know. This has happened to me maybe a couple times in my life. So, years ago, my friend Elizabeth gave me the best gift. I was feeling this way about her. She was just a little older than me, and we were both music majors in college, and I just thought she was the coolest. Everybody thought she was the coolest, and we ended up becoming really good friends. And so I started worrying with my insecurity, and so I talked with her about it. She could sense that I was putting up some protective walls, so in a vulnerable moment, I was just honest and I told her, like, I'm scared that I'm going to be too much. And she said, and this is the gift she gave me, Kristi, the very fact that you have any awareness at all about this guarantees that you will never be too much. It's the people who aren't self-aware that end up being overwhelming in a friendship. That's not you. It can't ever be you because you're aware of it. Oh, such a gift and such a voice of wisdom. So I'm saying the same to you. I know you're scared of being too much in court, too dramatic, too animated. But the very fact that you have any awareness of that you have a barometer for it, that measurement, that guarantees that you won't go over that threshold. Not only that, but your nervous system also protects that threshold. When nerves kick in, that's precisely the time that everything reduces down. That's the result of nerves in action. So I always tell people they need to practice way bigger than they think they'll perform or present at. Because when nerves kick in, you'll naturally reduce things down. If you've only practiced at performance level, then when nerves hit, your nerves will reduce more, and now you're substandard and you're under animated. So you're not in any danger of being too much. And your jury needs you to amp things up a bit. Why? Because their brain power suffers when you don't. We have all sat through presentations that feel more like lectures, where we're checking the clock, checking our watches, counting down the minutes until it's over. And then, how much do we really retain? How much are we impacted? Now, the presenter is probably super smart and probably even considered an expert in their field, but we just physically cannot listen. We need contrast to maintain attention. That's where that animation comes in. Create contrast. Now, in previous episodes, I've talked about how the brain's one job is to keep you alive, which means it wants to expend the least amount of calories as possible. It doesn't want to have to work. So when the presenter isn't animated, when they don't create contrast, the brain can just check out. If a juror's brain thinks it knows what you're going to sound like, then it thinks it knows what you're going to say, and therefore it no longer feels the need to listen to you. I'm going to say that again because this is a major takeaway moment, and I really want you to take it in. If their brain thinks they know what you're going to sound like, then it thinks it knows what you're going to say, and therefore it no longer feels the need to listen to you. Contrast is what wakes the brain up. Changes in pace, tone, emotional energy, even structure, all keep the brain in this sense of maybe. It can't predict what's coming next. It has to pay attention or it will miss something. And that notion poses a threat emotionally, psychologically, even socially. So it stays at high alert. Break up the monotony. It doesn't matter how prepared you are, how articulate you are, how dialed in you are, how much you can intellectually eviscerate your opposition witness. No one will be able to truly hear you and learn from you if you aren't more animated. Now, it's hard to gauge that for yourself. I get it. I'll give that to you. It's hard to gauge. And again, because of your nervous system and the fact that going bigger is new for you, you'll unintentionally end up playing small. So, get some external feedback. Record yourself and watch it on playback. Try to be objective. That's hard. You could get a coach that can give you personalized feedback and encourage you to take some risks while still creating emotional safety for you to do it. Now, I'd love to be that coach for you. I have a couple of open spots in my roster right now. And you can just get started with a free vocal snapshot call. There's no obligation to sign up for anything, but at the very least, the vocal snapshot gives you some affirmation of things you're doing well and areas where you can increase your awareness and start taking bigger swings. I'll put the link on how to schedule this free session in the show notes, and I hope to hear from you. Until next week, keep fostering your voice. Thanks for pulling up a seat with me today and for being part of the Foster fam. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, go ahead and leave a review or a comment so I can give you a shout out on a future episode. During the week, you can find me on Instagram at Foster Voice Studio, where I'm dropping little nuggets of vocal technique and leadership wisdom. You can also join my mailing list by visiting fostervoicestudio.com or by clicking the link in the show notes. I'll send a weekly vocal tip every Tuesday directly to your inbox. Until then, keep fostering your voice.